Welcome everyone. Today we are discussing one of the most challenging aspects of professional life, knowing when and how to speak up. Well, look at the legalities, but more importantly, the moral framework required to protect our users and our integrity. The learning objectives for this lesson, by the end of this presentation, you should be able to define whistleblowing and distinguish between internal and external channels. Analyze key regional and international legislation that shields employees from retaliation. Assess the ethical implications of technical debt and determine when efficiency shortcuts evolve into professional negligence. Demonstrate best practices for documentation, including maintaining a secure objective paper trail of evidence without violating data privacy laws. Then apply the safety first protocol to ensure personal and professional security before, during, and after an ethics report is filed. So the contents of this presentation, it has four: whistleblowing overview, the legal protection for whistleblowers, the ethics of reporting and managing stakeholders, and whistleblowing procedures and techniques. Let's proceed to the first topic, the definition of whistleblowing, ethical responsibility, and professional integrity. So whistleblowing isn't an act of betrayal. It is a high-level act of loyalty to the profession and to the public. We often think of it as a nuclear option, but in a healthy organization, it starts with a simple, transparent conversation about risk. As professionals, our silence is often seen as technical approval. So, what is whistleblowing? At its simplest definition, it is the disclosure by an organization member, former or current, of illegal, immoral, or illegitimate practices under the control of their employers to persons or organizations that may be able to effect action. So it includes internal versus external. And the ethical responsibility beyond the paycheck, we will discuss the social contract. An employee's duty isn't just to the shareholder or the manager, it is to the public interest, especially in the sectors like healthcare, finance, or environmental safety. So if you keep silent, in the face of systemic harm is an active choice. Ethics in this context is action-oriented, not passive. So the duty to warn, frame whistleblowing as a preventative measure, stopping a disaster before it becomes headline. While the professional integrity is the highest form of loyalty, this is a key talking point. True loyalty to a company is protecting it from its own worst impulses. A whistleblower is often the most loyal person in the room because they care enough to risk their career to save the institution's mission. So, whistleblower, we can say it's a rat, daga, or are the organization's early warning system. So this challenges their bias immediately and prepares them for the risk assessment discussion that follows. So let's proceed with the anti-retaliation laws. This is the shield, the legal floor. So it ensures that doing the right thing doesn't lead to professional suicide. So we can proceed to the confidentiality provisions. That's the bill. It is to identify as currency. So confidentiality is the whistleblower greatest asset. So we can say that regulatory programs like SEC or Healthcare Ombudsman allow the anonymous reporting. So the need no basis even on internal investigations, the whistleblower's identity should be restricted to the smallest possible limits. Okay? So what we are learning here, whistleblowing is only effective when the process is as strong as the person coming forward. Without these three pillars, we aren't asking for integrity. We're asking for a sacrifice. Let's proceed to the three active pillars of whistleblowing. The goal, to frame whistleblowing not as a choice, but as the fulfillment of a professional highest commitment to their field. So first is the uphold ethical standards. This is the moral compass. So there's a prevention. Ethics aren't just posters on a breakdown wall. They are lived actions. So whistleblowing is the mechanism used when an organization's actions deviate from its stated value. So we have the personal accountability. If you are a member of a professional body, your license often depends on your adherence to these standards. You aren't just an employee, you are a representative of your profession. Let's proceed to the report misconduct. This is the duty, this is the duty to act. Defining misconduct, it's more than just annoying behavior. It is the violation of laws, regulations, or clear ethical boundaries. Third is the support transparency. This is the cultural goal. The sunlight as a disinfectant. This transparency is the natural enemy of corruption. Whistleblowers act as the light that ensures operations remain visible to stakeholders, regulators, and the public. So what we learn in this slide, integrity is what you do when you think no one is looking. Whistleblowing is what you do when you realize everyone should be looking. The key characteristics of moral courage are integrity, resilience, and discretion. What is resilience? That's the armor. When we talk about moral courage, we often start with resilience. In the Philippines, whistleblowing is frequently described as a lonely path. You may face isolation from peers or pressure from management. Parang di ka na nila papansinin kapag ganun, no? So resilience isn't just about being tough. It's about having the mental and emotional endurance to stand by your findings during long administrative or legal reviews. As IT professionals, this also means having the technical resilience to ensure your documentation is so robust it can withstand intense scrutiny. The integrity is the compass. It is the consistency of your actions with your professional values. In the context of the Philippine Code Ethics of IT Professional, it means refusing to look the other way when you see safety risks or dark patterns. It's the refusal to compromise the source of truth for the sake of a launch deadline. Integrity is what transforms a complaint into a professional report. So it is the foundation that makes your testimony credible in the eyes of a MAC board or a court of law. And discretion. It is the strategy rather. Perhaps the most misunderstood trait is discretion. Moral courage is not about being loud, it's about being effective. It involves knowing who to tell, when to tell them, and how to protect the data. So in the Philippines, where word of mouth can travel fast, alam mo naman si Marites, ang bilis So, practicing discretion is vital for your own protection and the integrity of the investigation. So, here in the Philippines, meron tayong tinatawag na pakikisama. No? So, pag sinabing pakikisama and you speak up, parang sinasabi nilang you are a betrayal of camaraderie or pakikisama. But integrity as the ultimate form of pakikisama, it's protecting your colleagues, in the Filipino public from the consequence of a system failure of a cybercrime. So, what are the importance of speaking up? There are three: risk mitigation, ethical culture, and systemic change. Risk mitigation is the early warning system. Think of speaking up as the early warning system of a software architecture. From a risk mitigation perspective, whistleblowers allow an organization to identify a bug, a security flaw, or a dark pattern before it becomes a public disaster. On the other hand, the ethical culture is the psychological safety. A company that encourages people to speak up is building an ethical culture rooted in psychological safety. So when employees see that their peers are listened to and not punished, it creates a sense of collective ownership. In the local context, this directly challenges the no-tattling or blind loyalty mindset. Furthermore, the systemic change is the catalyst for growth. Finally, speaking up is the primary driver of systemic change. Individual reports often reveal patterns of failure. Perhaps our sprint cycles are too fast to allow for security checks, or our stakeholder reporting lacks transparency. So we have law in the Philippines, the 888 and the Citizens Complaint Center and the NPC of the data privacy. So let's pause first. What did you learn? Can you explain how one report can prevent a company-wide crisis? Do you think or do you see the link between their voice and the systemic improvement of their workplace? So let's proceed to the topic 2, the legal protections for whistleblowers. We have global frameworks, national adoption, and sector-specific focus. So the global landscape, why laws matter. Before we dive into local specifics, we must understand that whistleblower laws are designed to solve a power imbalance. Without a legal shield, the individual professional is often crushed by the weight of a larger organization. Internationally, laws, we have U.S. Sarbanes-Oxley Act, or the EU Whistleblowing Directive. The Philippine framework, a fragmented shield, we have RA 6981, the Witness Protection Act. The RA 3019, Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. RA 10173, the Data Privacy Act. The 2025 to 2026 shift, the new protections. And the recent, the GCD Memorandum Circulars have strengthened the Whistleblowing and Integrity Program, or WIP. And we have the professional responsibility. As IT professional, your job is to know which shield applies to you. If you are in the fintech, you look to SEC and BSP circulars. If you are in the data science, the NPC is your ally. You aren't just a coder, you are a citizen professional who must navigate these laws to protect the public interest. What about the confidentiality and anonymity? We have three: preservation of identity, anonymous reporting, and privacy safeguards. So preservation of identity, that's confidentiality. In a professional context, it is a promise of secrecy. When you report through an internal channel such as an HR portal or a government corporation's integrity monitoring committee, your identity is known to the investigators but is shielded from the accused. In the Philippines, we have the GCG Memorandum Circular number 2025-01. And we have anonymous reporting, zero knowledge safety, anonymity, takes protection that helps the identity is never known. The 888 Citizens Complaint Center, the Ethical Board Simulation, and We have the privacy safeguards, the technical defense. As IT professionals, we know that privacy isn't just a policy, it's an architecture. So privacy safeguards are the technical walls we build. We encrypt our reports stored so even the database admin can't read them. So what we should learn in this slide, can you explain the difference between a confidential report and anonymous one? Can you identify at least 2 technical privacy safeguards required by the Privacy Data Act? Let's proceed to the retaliation and legal remedies. The anti-retaliation measure is the legal shield. In the Philippines, retaliation is defined broadly. It's not just getting fired, it's getting demoted, transferred to a remote office, or even being blacklisted from the future industry roles. Under RA 6981, the Witness Protection Act, and the 2025 Revised Whistleblowing and Integrity Program for government corporations, these acts are strictly prohibited. As of 2026, new mandates from GCG and Ombudsman treat retaliation as a separate punishable offense. And we have the legal assistance, the expert defense. You don't have to face a legal battle alone. If you are admitted into the Witness Protection Program, the DOJ provides legal counsel. For those in the private sector, the IBP and the firms specializing in labor law now offer the pro bono or unified aid for whistleblowers of public interest. And the compensation and reinstatement, making it right. If you're unjustly dismissed, Philippine labor law is quite clear on security of tenure. You are entitled to actual reinstatement. You can be awarded separation pay plus full backwards. And the strained relations doctrine, we have strained the mental health, the law that protects your mental health and allows you to move on to a new company with your reputation and your finances. If the company wanted you to return but you don't want to return, then there's a protection for you. So let's proceed to the topic 3, the ethics of report. How do you report and manage stakeholders? So there is reporting technical debt and risk, the transparency. In the Philippines, that's the clear balance sheet. There's often a cultural pressure to make things work no matter the cost. But in professional engineering, transparency is your best defense. You must treat technical debt like a financial balance sheet. Risk mitigation is the business language. When you talk to a manager or a client about refactoring code, they might hear unnecessary delay. To be effective, you must speak the language of risk mitigation. Instead of saying the code is messy, say the current architecture increases our security risk, or this legacy library will cost us 40 extra hours of work next month. So professionalism, the definition of done. It is about setting a definition of done that includes quality, not just functionality. A professional doesn't just deliver a feature that works. They deliver a feature that is maintainable. So the Philippine context, finally remember that in our local regulatory environment, especially with BSP and NPC, unmanaged technical debt is often a compliance violation. So what we should learn from this? Can you translate a code smell into a business risk? Can you justify when it is prudent to take on debt versus when it is reckless? So balancing in stakeholder interest, we have ethical alignment, the shared North Star. Balancing interest isn't just about splitting the difference, it's about ethical alignment. This means finding the common ground where project goals meet professional standards. Communication strategies is the translating the values. It is the engine of alignment. You must be a technical translator. When speaking to a CEO, don't talk about code refactoring. Talk about long-term sustainability and risk reduction. And conflict resolution, navigating dahiya and harm. Conflicts in tech are inevitable. Hindi natin maiwasan. But they don't have to be destructive. Conflict resolution in our field requires a problem-solving mindset rather than a winning mindset. We often face the great automation conflict efficiency versus labor, or the data conflict personalization versus privacy. In the Philippines, we have the bayanihan. Tech ethics, ultimately balancing interests, is like the Filipino tradition. Everyone moving the house together. So it requires collective effort by involving stakeholders early in ethical impact assessments. You turn them into allies. So what we should learn? Can you list at least 3 different stakeholder groups and their likely conflicting interests? Can you draft a communication strategy that translates a technical risk into a business value? Okay, let's proceed to the professional duty and ethical reporting. So you already knew that there is a problem, so you need to report, but we should report ethically by being accountable. So in the Philippines, the Code of Ethics of the Filipino IT professional starts with a powerful pledge. I will promote public knowledge, and I will consider the general welfare and public good in the performance of my work. So accountability isn't just about who is to blame when a server goes down. It's about taking ownership of the ethical consequences of our code. So when we report a bug or a risk, we aren't just ticket filers. We are exercising our accountability to the Filipino people who rely on our systems for their banking, healthcare, and identity. While legal compliance is the non-negotiable baseline, ethical reporting is often mandated by the law, the RA 10173, the Data Privacy Act, and the NPC. Within 72 hours, failing to report isn't just a breach of company policy, it's a criminal offense. And we have industry standards, the global benchmark. Industry standard like ISO 27001 for security management and the ACM IEEE Code of Ethics. These standards provide the best practices for how reporting should happen. They tell us the professionalism means providing evidence-based, truthful statements about our area of competence. So the Filipino IT professionals creed, ultimately our duty is to elevate the prestige of our profession in the Philippines by being the first to speak up when something is wrong. We prove that Filipino engineers are not just tech savvy, but integrity driven. We move from being a service provider to being a trusted advisor. So let's pause. What we should learn. Can you name the primary Philippine law, RA 10173, that governs their reporting duties? Can you explain the difference between legal compliance, doing what is required, and professional duty, doing what is right for the public good? So let's proceed for the topic 4. There are the steps for reporting and documentation, and please read this because it's a longer one and we are running out of time, or you maybe get bored when you're listening for a longer lectures. So just read it. And what are your tools for whistleblowing? Anonymous reporting systems, the secure channel. So in our country, we are seeing a shift toward standardized anonymous reporting systems. For government, we have the 888 Citizens Complaint Center, the Zero Knowledge Architecture, and while the encryption software, the Digital Shield, when you are handling sensitive evidence, encryption is non-negotiable. If you are documenting a breach or a fraud, your notes should be stored in encrypted volumes using tools like BeraCrypt or BitLocker. And for the documentation tools, the chain of custody, a whistleblower is only as good as their evidence. You need documentation tools that prove the source of truth. This includes the HASHES SHA 256, the DOJ or Ombudsman, and we have the legal aid resources, the human support. You should never go through this alone. There are specific legal aid resources available. The IBP and the Free Legal Assistance Group, the FLAG, the NPC, the Cybercrime Prevention Act, RA 10175. And let's check first before we proceed. Can you identify the difference between a secure reporting portal and a standard company email? Do you know the basic steps to hash a file to preserve its integrity for an investigation? So let's proceed to the risk assessment in whistleblowing. What are those risks? Our goal is moving from a feeling of danger to a systematic map of potential threats. We anticipate the backlash spectrum. We identify internal bad actors, the proper trail defense, isolation tactics. While legal risk evaluation, the goal for that is assessing the shield provided by the law versus the sword of the corporation, like jurisdictional nuance. We should know the confidentiality versus our privilege, and we should consult because it's mandatory. Never go it alone. A legal risk evaluation is incomplete without a specialized whistleblower attorney. And emotional support, building a psychological bunker for a process that often takes years, not months. Whistleblower loneliness, prepare the individual for the loss of their professional social circle. Friends at work often distance themselves, nilalayuan na siya. So establishing a safe circle, identify 2 to 3 anchors, family therapies or external mentors who are not involved in the case but are briefed on the emotional toll. Then managing the obsession loop, crisis resources, and for the last outcome forecasting, it is the managing expectation with radical honesty. It consists of the victory paradox, the timeline realism, career pivot planning, the quiet win, and to iterate or to summarize in these slides, a risk assessment isn't a one-time event. It's a living document. As the investigation progresses, the risk shifts. To conclude, integrity is a feature. It must be built into the product from day one. Duty to report, transparency is the best preventative medicine. So my final quote, the world is not threatened by evil people, but by those who allow evil to take place. So know your rights, document your concerns, and never forget that your technical expertise comes with a social contract. So these are my references, and thank you so much.